By any measurement of humanity, the people of Gaza have suffered as grievously as anyone has ever suffered in any conflict in the world. More than 60,000 already dead, and the rest living amongst rubble, starving, and without even being able to get the basic needs of medical attention, which the member for Hayes and Harlington pointed out affects children as well. And so we're looking at something that is utterly devastating. And the British government has been told many, many times. They resisted the calls for a ceasefire at the very beginning. We even had the now Prime Minister saying that it was a legitimate act of self-defence by Israel to deny food and water to people in Gaza. And so we have a pretty bad record by both British governments on this. And I would have thought the very least we can do now is say absolutely no arms of any sort or military cooperation with Israel. And the so-called ceasefire that the Trump plan is about is actually basically ensuring Israel's continued occupation of substantial parts of Gaza and not saying very much about the abominable behaviour of the Israeli armed settlers on the West Bank, which are destroying villages and killing people as we speak. So surely we need to send a pretty strong message from this House that we recognise the rights of the Palestinian people to be able to live in peace. We also recognise the importance and the primacy of international law. The member who just intervened made a very strong point, and he and I have both been visiting the International Court of Justice at The Hague. I sat all through the hearing when South Africa made its application. It was a moving and fascinating experience, and brilliantly put by South Africa, who were condemned by members on all sides of this House for even bringing the case of genocide against Israel. And they put the case quite brilliantly. And I'm sitting there looking at this wonderful ceiling in the Palace of Peace and thinking back to the way when South Africa current leaders were all called terrorists and were denounced for undermining and upsetting the apartheid regime. They finished apartheid, and then they've given their support to the people of Palestine. Well done, South Africa, for having the bravery to do that. And so I think what we need to do is understand the importance of international law. If we believe in international law, which this Parliament and Britain always says it does, we helped to write the European Convention on Human Rights, we helped to write the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights, then stand by it. Stand by it and ensure that the Israeli government is taken to task for its breaches of human rights around the world. I'll stop in a second because others wish to speak. I just want to finish with this point. It's going on to winter now in Gaza and the West Bank. And despite its latitude, it is actually very, very cold in winter. I recall once being an election observer in Gaza in January, and it was bitterly cold and horrible weather. That was long before this current bombardment. I thought it was terrible then. It's 1,000 times worse now. People are going to be dying of cold and hypothermia when there are stacks of tents on the other side of the border in Israel not being allowed in. The people are going to be dying of operations conducted without anaesthetic when there are plenty of anaesthetics available just across the border waiting to go in from Egypt. This is an abominable situation. Can't we just as a House say quite bluntly to Israel, you're wrong, what you're doing is illegal, what you're doing is immoral, and history will judge you for being the people that committed genocide against the Palestinian people.